After the Maidan Revolution, also known as the coup, Kolomoisky was appointed by former President Poroshenko to be the governor of Dnipro, a province in eastern Ukraine. Thereupon, he immediately began funding militia to fight off the so-called invasion of the Russian government. In this, he was considered a hero in the United States in support of their Nazi-tolerant government. The military support which came to the Donbass was a response of the request for aid of eastern Ukraine when the people there rose up in opposition to the US-backed coup that just occurred in the Kiev Rada. The uprising happened in eastern Ukraine because the far right-leaning Nazi-tolerant Rada were passing laws which outlawed the Russian language and which were making the people of eastern Ukraine and their canonical church second-class citizens in Ukraine. But they are portrayed as pro-Russian terrorists, while the Nazi West are lauded as freedom fighters. And in this eastern section of the country, there just happens to be the bulk of Ukraine's resources, such as natural gas, minerals, hydrocarbons, ferroalloys, and this happens to be also the seat of Kolomoisky's wealth. The people of Donbass, Donetsk, Lugansk, and other areas of eastern Ukraine realized they could face a pogrom of extermination, and since the United States was on the side of those who supported the current pro-right and Nazi-tolerant government, they needed to protect themselves, and most importantly, they needed to protect their Christian faith. They entreated Russia, and the people, with the support of the government of Russia, heeded the call. And thus you see, this is a war between militias, one of which is backed by Kolomoisky and the United States of America against the people of eastern Ukraine. And the United States in this instance is not only on the wrong side of history in Ukraine, they are on the wrong side of God. Sadly, this state of affairs was exacerbated when the Ukrainian militias were emboldened by the irregular and destabilizing actions of His Holiness Patriarch Bartholomew of Constantinople, one of his actions being the recently granting of autocephaly to the schismatic Orthodox Church of Ukraine with Joseph Biden's blessing. Yes, you heard me right, Joseph Biden's blessing. The Kiev Patriarchate thanked Joe Biden by awarding him with the Order of the Holy Equal to the Apostles Prince Vladimir Award. This award was given to him by the Defrock hierarch from the Moscow Patriarchate Church, Filaret Denisenko. More on him and this geopolitical issue as it pertains to the Church and the United States foreign policy regarding the Church in Part 2. But to the point, yes, the violation of church and state is happening in Ukraine, and American taxpayers' money is paying for it, and Joe Biden is at the forefront of this violation. Do certain members of Congress have Christian blood on their hands? Think about this, folks, and think about it well. But let's look at this figure, Kolomoisky. While currently the president of the United Jewish Community of Ukraine, he funds militias which are openly nationalistic in the Nazi manner, willing to exterminate Jews everywhere in Ukraine and Christians in the East to further their nationalistic agenda. No wonder the European Council of Jewish Communities, which characterized his presidency of them as a push, forced him to resign, which is saying something for them nonetheless. But no matter, he and his friend Gennady Bogolubov started their own European Jewish Committee. So let me just to continue to say this. Kolomoisky has armed private militias which are involved in the seizing of churches, convents, monasteries, and other church properties, and people have died, have been martyred in the taking. These Nazi militias are doing this for their schismatic church and for the US-backed coup in Ukraine, and we are supporting the schismatic Nazi-tolerant church. The reality, folks, is that the church in Western Ukraine is taking advice from abortion-supported Joe Biden, nonetheless, and the government may still be corrupt, especially as long as Kolomoisky seems to be the actual ruler in Ukraine. But on both sides, Christians are dying, and American taxpayers' money is enabling this warfare and enabling our government meddling in the affairs of a church, not just in the internal affairs of a sovereign nation, but in their internal affairs of their church. Remember the Podesta emails? But let me get back to Kolomoisky. Does he have any influence in Congress, in the House, and in the Senate? Does he have influence within the DNC, the Democratic National Committee? What can we know based on this man's character and past actions and the involvement in the Maidan coup by which people like John McCain and Joe Biden supported? By the way, the coup was a bipartisan effort, but largely orchestrated by the Obama-Clinton-Biden administration. Diplomatic henchmen of the Hillary Clinton State Department, such as the Ambassador Jeffrey Pat, were helping to orchestrate this coup with Assistant Secretary of State for Eurasian Affairs Victoria Nuland. The woman who was so excited about the prospect of a coup, she used an expletive to voice her frustration with the European Union's ineptitude with handling the reversal presented by former President Viktor Yanukovych's refusal to sign the association agreement. But let me say this may explain why so many senators and representatives are resigning and thereby giving the Democrats a chance to maintain a majority. But let's drill down, so to speak. So there is a person by the name of Attorney Robert Powell, whose wife received $700,000 US from one of the ultimate beneficial owning collaborators of Kolomoisky's Optimus schemes, which involved the unlawfully purchasing of goods with fraudulent monies and fraudulent activity from the laundering entities listed in the racketeering lawsuit filed on the 19th of May 2019 in Delaware by the Nationalized Privat Bank of Ukraine, the bank that used to be owned by Kolomoisky and which it is said that he hopes to be returned to him through the efforts of Zelensky, who won his presidency by vowing to face down corruption. Privat Bank is the largest commercial bank in Ukraine. Still, I'm only going to mention Shokin in this context, the prosecutor who was fired because Biden asked Poroshenko to fire him. Shokin, who was investigating Biden's son, Hunter, if you all remember. So $700,000 is given to the political campaign of the wife of Robert Powell, the man involved in several of Kolomoisky's enterprises, as a U.S.-based attorney, representing enterprises of which many Americans were harmed, of which American citizens lost their jobs. His wife is a Democratic candidate in the House of Representatives. Her name is Debbie M. Powell. Many may have heard of this story. Investigative journalist Anders Adlund of the Atlantic Council points out that with fraudulent money laundering schemes, Kolomoisky bought real commercial entities and real estate and purchased real businesses where real people worked. These businesses and properties, they were in small town America. Adlund makes a good point of noting that they were mid-sized companies located in small towns, mid-sized cities, the backbone of Americana, and a man such as Kolomoisky was operating there and giving money to politicians willing to do his bidding. And this candidate, the wife of attorney Robert Powell, received $700,000 for her campaign. For Attorney Powell's working and filing paperwork for people who are destabilizing Main Street America, small town America. So let's review what has been going on. The church, here, remember the Podesta emails? And in Ukraine, being corrupted by globalists. Small town America being bought out by bad faith actors, enabled by elected and private sector bad faith actors. Our government being influenced, being given marching orders by outsiders. The president, our president, being attacked from all sides. What will our enemies ask for next? Nonetheless, I'm reminded of the story of the fisherman and his wife. Does Kolomoisky have influence in the Democratic Party to try and overthrow a United States president that he feels will not work with him in a manner he is used to? Will George Soros and others like him continue to puppeteer people like Pelosi, Schumer, Schiff, Nadler to do their bidding? Is this insane farce of a circus trying to imitate an impeachment a direct action demanded by the Soroses, the Kolomoiskys of the world? Make no mistake, small-town America is being impacted as President Trump's America First policies are being undermined. People are losing jobs with these deals, losing businesses they built up over a lifetime with due diligence and honesty. They are being impacted negatively by the colonizing of our land by these nefarious individuals, enabled by members of Congress, the Democrats, and the rhinos. Kolomoisky gave money to candidate Powell, and who else has he given money to? What is the dungeon deal being played out in Congress today in this impeachment farce? Why are the deep state Congress undermining President Trump's attempts not to only have better relations with Russia, but to at least stop this progression towards a war with Russia? Is it amazing what Trump has been able to do with our economy, judiciary, with uplifting programs to help education, prison reform, trade deals, the wall? Despite this very real active threat, all the while dealing with an insane J. Edgar Hoover-istic FBI, a COINTELPRO of the 21st century. Nonetheless, Kolomoisky is practiced at the art of defrauding not only his own people, but the people of the United States, destabilizing their livelihoods in the process in small towns where he thought no one was looking. At the end of the day, I say yes, that Kolomoisky, this man known for ordering contract killings, has the temperament, the connections here in the United States, and the past behavior patterns in Ukraine, and the hubris to try and mess with our duly and beloved President Donald J. Trump, just as he has been messing with small-town America when he thought no one was looking. But maybe, like the lady in the tale of the fisherman and his wife, he will finally have pushed and asked for what he ought not to have asked for. He came from a pretty nice family. The fall won't be too uncomfortable, yet nonetheless, except perhaps to his ego. And that is my 2 cents on the matter. May God have mercy on our souls and protect our land, our people, and our president.